Hey everybody, welcome to episode 78 of the Bonehead Podcast, where we talk all things Blood Bowl. Welcome back, I'm Ben, and once again I'm joined by Blood Tithe Ben. How you doing, BT?
Hello, I'm doing good. I've literally just noticed when the camera came on that I've had this flicker. I don't know if it shows up on this VOD, but when I broadcast in camera on Discord, I've had this flicker, and I've been wondering what the hell is causing it.
There is
And
a bit of flicker.
I've literally just worked it out. It's because this bulb in here isn't a dimmer bulb, and it's on a dimmer switch. And now I've got this bizarre flickering, so I'm probably going to have to change that before it blows up on me, although it's been like that for months. So it's probably...
Yeah. I love that when you realise something, whether it's at home or in your car or something, you're like, oh, that's going to go wrong at some time. But it's been 6 months, so it's probably fine.
I should be all right.
I'm sure it'll be fine. What have we had on the podcast so far? We've had power cuts, multiple power cuts. What else have we had happen? We had some other stuff. A horse turned up at one point.
I do remember the horse.
That was I think I was doing a painting session online, and a horse turned up in our driveway, which perks of living in the country. Anyway, Ben, we've got you back now. We had Milton last week to come and join us and say hello. I mean, how you been, man? All right?
Yeah, I've been good. It's been a little while. Just been quite busy lately. Things going on as things go back to normal. Yeah, no, it's all pretty good. Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, man, busy, like you say. Full disclosure, this podcast is coming out Saturday the 16th, but I've grabbed Ben and we're recording it early because I will be in Edinburgh next week on my honeymoon. So we're recording this on Thursday, and it's Tiff's birthday tomorrow. We're getting married on Saturday, so by the time you've listened to this, Ben should have recovered from his hangover. Alison should have given the dog back to my family, potentially. Maybe not, I don't know. That's Ben's other half. And Tiff and I would have just got back from Edinburgh as well, which is nice. So we've got a really fun week coming up, and I think because we've had so much Blood Bowl news recently, it shouldn't be too eventful. I am taking like some of my podcast gear just in case, just in case something like really exciting in Blood Bowl happens. But I mean, we've got so much going on right now that I would be massively surprised if they dropped any news this weekend. I mean,
yeah, I don't think so. We've had a fair amount lately.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're done for the year now. Like, I genuinely think we're done for the year. It's October. There's only 10 weeks of the year left, basically, and we've got so many releases to come. Like, it's pretty awesome. So, as we're talking about releases, we will bounce into news in a second, but today we're going to be talking about Kreek Rustgouger, the Verminator. We're going to be talking about the Blood Bowl meta, looking at competitive Blood Bowl, constructed Blood Bowl as it is right now, and I love a good conspiracy theory. So, the last few weeks, some of our viewers and some of our listeners have come up with some great ideas of what could be happening and what's coming next. So, Ben and I are going to chat through that as well. But for now, over to news. Okay, news time. As we're looking at it right now, all the Kickstarters that are live will have finished by Saturday the 16th, so not really much point talking about them. We do know that there's some very, very cool Blood Bowl stuff coming up soon, but we can't talk about it just yet. So please, maybe it's gone live, maybe it's been released by now, I don't know. But we probably shouldn't mention that, but there's some very cool stuff coming, and it's going to land beautifully, and you're all going to be spoilt, which I am very happy about. So, what we didn't get a chance to talk through, Ben and I, is talking about Khorne. And as Ben is Blood Tithe Ben because of Khorne and Khorne things in AOS, I thought we'd have a little catch up and talk through all the Khorne stuff that's going out and everything we can expect in Spike 13. So Spike 13 is going to release... That's literally it. That's all we know. It's going to release at some point. I know I got a bit overconfident there. I mean, first of all, Ben, it's the middle of October now. At best, like, we've seen so many spoilers for star players. We'll tick through them because we're kind of waiting for a lot of stuff. Realistic release date for the Khorne team, man. What do you reckon?
If it comes out before Christmas, I'll be surprised. Just with the way these schedules work, I think we may see it before Christmas. That would be nice because that would be a nice little Christmas present, I think. Because
Dude,
I
that'd
think
be a
this team looks
sweet
awesome.
Christmas present. All right, let's do some time points. We've got Bonehead on the 6th of November. By then, yes or no?
No.
Now, when the ogres dropped, they dropped the first week of December. Do you remember? Because you were organising Hangover Boss. This is a couple of years ago. So
Yeah.
they do like
We're really unsure
their
of the
kind of
coming time.
they do like their kind of 6th of December time release schedule for Blood Bowl things. What would that be? That would be
I'm
potentially
going to look up the
4th.
ogre team when that was announced because that might give us some indication. Actually, now you said that.
I do think. What year was that? Was that in 2019?
Yeah, that got revealed October 24th, and it came out first week of December. So it might. Things this got revealed end of September?
Yeah, this got. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know you keep your hands in the rest of the Games Workshop stuff as well. I mean, are they back on track with stuff now? I feel like they were still a little bit behind with some of their core releases.
I think they're getting there. 40k is kind of catching up. Age of Sigmar did have a big delay. I know the new battle tomes for the starter armies.
Yeah, at
They
least
got a pretty hard delay.
they've landed now, though, haven't they? I mean,
Yeah,
Sam's
they're
got
out.
his Crawl Boys book,
Yeah.
and I saw that Ash from Guerrilla Miniatures Games did the Robo Men one as well. So I guess they're back out. All right, so you know what? We might have these by Christmas. Then this might be great.
Yeah, I think we.
But I think before Bonvembo is a bit too optimistic for me. But Ben, I mean, you're a blood for the blood god kind of guy. What do you reckon to the team? What do you reckon to the spoiler?
This is really nice. I was really kind of nervous about this team coming out because I actually really do quite like the Khorne team that exists. And I like the team that I've got from Grebo. And I was just like, well, like either they're going to change the roster or they're going to completely change like the style of it. And what I've got won't work. I might be able to run this team, but seeing this and how they work aesthetically and how the team positionals work, this is perfect. I think they've just sort of like ironed out and smoothed out the roster a bit, made it a little bit easier to build, less like treading on each other's toes between the positionals. And yeah, and I think if you have an existing Khorne team, you'll easily be able to run it as this because the blood letters can just be Khorne Gauls, and then the heralds can be the heralds can be the warriors, and it just works out. So
yeah, this is what Milton and I said last episode. Is that they haven't. It's a really interesting one because we were talking about, and I want to get your opinion on this in a second, about whether or not this replaces Khorne, like the Demons of Khorne roster. But you've got the Bloodletters, they can be your Khorne Ghouls. You've got the Linemen, they are the same. They've just lost a point of armor essentially. And then you can kind of, like you said, you've got the Heralds 0 to 4, who can basically line up and be your Chaos, your Frenzy blockers, or you can just pick up a Chaos team and run those 4 guys as your Chaos blockers, or just find 4 Khorne dudes, or just pick up this team and get 4 of your Khorne warriors, or who are called what, Bloodseekers now? Bloodseekers.
Yeah, they are Bloodseekers. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Why have they done this? Why have they done this? We've got
I'm
blood.
just impressed they can still find new names for them because they are really exhausting that list.
Bloodborne, Bloodseekers, Bloodspawn, the hulking mutant swollen with the blood god's unholy power. We haven't seen the stats for that one yet. Why do it, Games Workshop? Absolutely flipping why. Now, Ben, I'll ask you the same question I asked Milton, and we got some cool feedback about this last episode as well. It's like, do you think this team nullifies the Khorne team?
I think it does. Yeah, I can't see, and this is coming from someone who loves the Khorne team, and I've played it quite a lot.
Yeah, you came
I
third
think this
at our last tournament with Khorne?
Yeah, came. I was top table against Wayne and got absolutely crushed as usual.
Been there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think this does. I think I would rather play this team than the old team, just because the old team, they're a bit like the fact that the Heralds and the Bloodletters are kind of the same. You're really fighting for who can do the blitz on the turn. It feels like a lot of redundancy. The fact that the linemen are cheaper is really nice because it feels really bad to lose them in Khorne, and you do because they hurt themselves.
We ran some rosters, and that the cheaper lineman massively helps. And even if they've got 70k rerolls, you've got some reasonable rosters here. But one thing we did pick up is that the biggest difference, and I think, the speed of the NAF, right, straight away. So we've got the Demons of Khorne team from Blood Bowl 1 has been ported over to Blood Bowl 2020 rules by the NAF, the Players Combine. And I think the biggest thing here is that Demons of Khorne team is basically the Bloodthirster team. Like, you play that team to play a Bloodthirster. Most of the time, you're kind of struggling for cash to buy the demons to do the extra stuff. Whereas this team is all about the positionals. I don't think you can start with less than 6 of those positionals, basically. Obviously, you can just be your lineman person. But, there's talking through the rosters, you can take 4 of the big dudes and 2 Khorne Gors, 4 Khorne Gors. I think you can even get like 2 or 3 of the big dudes in there as well. So you can actually take your positional. I see this roster being like less all in on the one big guy and more consistent because of it. And I feel like, first of all, the NAF are not going to get rid of Demons of Khorne. Although they did get rid of Bretonnians when Games Workshop introduced Nobility, which definitely leads on to our new Team Conspiracy segment later on in the episode. But I can't see them sort of taking Demons of Khorne away, but I feel like they're going to play massively different, and it's going to give you a really good choice. It's going to be like, do I want to go all in on the BT and just run a big guy with a bunch of minions, or do I want to take a team with 4 of what I consider to now be some of the best defensive players in the game? Right, those strength 4 frenzy boys are just absolutely awesome. You got 4 in the backfield. This is like an orc team, but better. All right, defending with orcs is just one of the biggest points of joy in Blood Bowl. I binged an absolute ton of orc play to get the formations video sorted, and I just fell in love with having those black orcs in the field. And this was with the old edition. In the new edition, they're faster, which is awesome, but they play out the same way that these guys here are going to play, except these guys start with frenzy. So you just end up with 4 slow Ulfwereners in the backfield. Like, what the heck are you going to do? How are you going to... There's nowhere to get through, and you're going to end up getting 2... The thing is, it's not a 2-die block, it's a 4-die block. And it's just absolutely monstrous. Like, this team is going to be filthy. And I did absolutely call out Sam Frenzy Garner by saying, actually, there's going to be some madman that just spams Mighty Blow everywhere and just deletes teams. And it's going to be this one. And it's going to be great. And I think in that regard, it does play massively different to the Khorne team, because the Khorne team, you want to blitz with everybody. This team, you don't really want to blitz with anyone except the ball carriers, because you've got the Bloodthirster. The Bloodthirster wants to blitz because he's got animal savagery or whatever it is, and just, you always want to use your blitz on the Bloodthirster so that it moves around. On this team, all right, we haven't seen what the Bloodspawns rules are. The only people you want to blitz with are the guys without frenzy, which means you can make a targeted blitz, or you can just go lumbering in there with one of your 4 juggernaut-looking guys to just run in and quad dice somebody.
I think it really does depend on that, on what the Bloodspawn is going to be like. Because if he does end up being as good as the Bloodthirster, I mean, that is a really good big guy. It's really going to shake things up, because then it might become more like a duplicate of the old Khorne team.
Okay, you're bang on the money. You are kind of you're bang on the money there. If the Bloodspawn turns up and he's a juggernaut animal savagery claw.
I mean, he looks it.
Yeah,
looking at the artwork, he does. I mean, he's not going to be light, is he? He's at least got some form of strength 6, even if it's just horns.
He is absolutely.
I reckon he's going to be 6 built in.
He's going to be a chunky boy. But the thing is, think about the Chaos teams, right? Chaos Chosen team, they very rarely run a big guy. You buy the big guy last, because having those 4 dudes is so much more consistent, so much more reliable, and a lot of the time the difference between strength 5 and strength 4, it doesn't exist. Like, in a world of strength 3, strength 4 is strength 5, And that's what I think. I think because this team can take 4 strength 4 guys who are going to 2-die block on their own, I don't think they're going to want to pick up a big guy quite so quickly. I just don't think that's going to be as necessary. And I think, looking at the build on this roster, it's me. So if there's a Minotaur looking dude, I'm going to be, well up for that, because I think that's great fun. But actually,
absolutely,
yeah. The only thing that would be awesome for this team is if you got a strength 5 frenzy brawler kind of starter, and then you are just hammering it on with 5 strength 4/5 dudes on the front line. Like that's just going to add more of the same. It's just going to be a win more situation. Now, the Bloodthirster is the best player on that team because everybody else is just strength 3 frenzy. So I don't know. I feel like there is a bit of a dynamic. This one is slower and less all in on the Bloodthirster, and I think that's what makes it better because you're going to have different builds. It's going to be all Khorne Gores. It's going to be all frenzy blockers. It's going to be the 1 and 2 big guy 2 chaos black blocker build to start with, and you're going to have different variations of the team. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're all going to have hack phlegm, so it doesn't really matter in a tournament. But yeah, I don't know. I'm mega looking forward to seeing the rest of the roster, but I don't know. I mean, from a NAF point of view, Ben, do you think they even could say, hey, we ended the Bretonnian team because the nobility team came out and it was so close? This roster, if that big guy comes out, I think the Bretonnian nobility was probably like a 70% clone. This one I feel like is more of a 60% clone, because it's
yeah, it's definitely different, and like you say, the rosters will be very different just due to the cost of players, and like the types of players. I think there's a chance I'll keep both. I think it's good that the old one was called like Demons of Khorne too, because that does kind of differentiate them thematically. Like you've got demons, and then these are all Khorne mortals.
yeah,
So
they've done
there
well
is that.
there. You're right.
Yeah,
That was pretty useful. It's incredibly close to the Khorne team, the Khorne Fumble secret team.
oh yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Like it is incredibly close, and I love that. Some other cool stuff here that said what happens if the Bloodspawn lands and starts off with Mighty Blow +2, but with Animal Savagery. So instead of going Mighty Blow Claw, it just starts with Mighty Blow +2, and Animal Savagery will start wrecking your own team if it goes wrong. Having played Rat Ogre in a Skaven team, like that can go wrong quite quickly. Someone else said probably not multi-block because Frenzy, the interaction there, it's probably going to be more like on Frenzy. I mean, what do you think that guy's going to do different? What do you think is going to be its thing, Ben?
I think, judging from the artwork, I feel like he may come with some kind of prehensile tail with the chain.
Yeah, yeah.
Which would be really good on a team like this, because you don't want things running away from it, which is
on a Frenzy roster, yeah, trying to slow somebody else down. That's
especially on a Khorne team when you're really fighting for the blitz. Having stuff in base contact is really important to sort of save up the other players. I'm not sure. I think he might just be like strength 6 built in, maybe Mighty Blow +2, but I think that's quite a lot at that point.
Man, if he lands at strength 6, that would be absolutely huge.
Yeah, I just think he might come with that Bloodthirster cost, but then that makes the roster very awkward because you have 4 110k players on this team, and that is not a cheap team.
I think this is what I really like about the nobility roster is there's legitimately a few different ways to build it, and I think with the Khorne one here, because of the pricing, you already kind of got a couple of different ways to build it. If they bring in a viable big guy as well, Norse is a cracking example of this, where they've got a big guy that's just great on a team that probably doesn't need him, but the big guy's really good. Chaos doesn't always need that big guy. There's a lot of players out there that don't run a big guy on a Chaos team because they don't feel like they need it. It doesn't feel like it adds anything. So a part of me does worry that actually this guy's just going to be a strength 5 version of the Chaos blockers on this team, and he's not going to add a huge amount. But I don't know. Like, prehensile tail would work. I mean, claw is a very Khorne thing, but that's just because of the Bloodthirster. Like no, exactly.
Yeah, like the model just doesn't scream claw to me.
He screams
he's more like
massive, like he said.
He's just like a truck. Yeah.
The Nurgle version of this has got tentacles, and just very Nurgle aesthetic. Khorne is all about the frenzy, so I think just frenzy jugs, Mighty Blow +1 is probably great. For 150k, it's a Minotaur that gets jugs instead of horns.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Starting with Juggernaut on a big guy is massive. It saves my my big guys all the time.
Yeah, and giants.
Yeah.
when we remember it.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing, yeah, the game that is coming out tomorrow, actually, which is cool. I love the art direction they've gone with it. I mean,
Oh, can we talk about that? Just highlight that.
go, man.
Something I love about this new reboot of Blood Bowl is the artwork. It's so good. People need to be lauding this. Something that just really clicks with me is all of this new Blood Bowl artwork. I think it's so good. Of the art that GW produces, I do think this absolutely knocks it out of the park.
And it is lesser quality. Like, this is, I think, good deviant art level quality. Like, I don't want to disrespect artists, but like, it's got it. When I say that, it doesn't look like the Codex cover art you see for Age of Sigmar and all the stuff in there. This is just more casual and accessible. Like, it's less grandiose. I love the fact it's got fun bits in there. Like, one of the Bloodseekers has got a tattoo with mum on his arm. It's just it's just that kind of stuff. It's just super fun. Like, the one bit of criticism that someone has landed is that they don't look much like a Blood Bowl team. Because they look so much like the Age of Sigmar models for Khorne.
It even says that on the Warhammer community page underneath the team photo. It says, "Surely they'd be more at home on a battlefield, wouldn't they?"
And they've just leaned into it, and that's perfect because this team does look like Blood Reavers and Blood Warriors.
Yeah, they really are, especially when they have the fist. That's actually the weapon of
the Age of Sigmar guys come with this. So I can only assume they're digitally sculpting the AOS stuff now, and they've just gone, no, let's just tweak them up a little bit, release a Blood Bowl team because we can't be bothered to do another one for now. And you know what? I am well up for that. Let's have a Slaanesh team. Let's have a Tzeentch team with this format, with this like structure, because this team is going to be super fun. I don't think it's going to be overpowered. There are going to be some. We've talked about this with Demons of Khorne. Like, Khorne and Goblins are very similar. Like, if you roll well, you steamroll. If you roll poorly, you lose. And Sam Frenzy Garner, we're going to have to get him on the show soon to talk about Khorne and Goblins, because those are kind of his two things. And when he rolls well with both of those teams, he is unstoppable. Like, Goblins just was stomping at the last tournament when he was running them. And, he's gone on a Khorne rampage before as well. And it's just like, Khorne, because of the frenzy, if you roll hot, you are rolling twice as many block dice as your opponent, and it's gonna go. It snowballs one way or the other. So the big guy on this team has to have animal savagery to balance it out. It's got to do it. Do not stitch us. It's just the most incredible thing. Make him worthwhile, but let's have him cost stuff to the team if it goes wrong. Like, I'm hugely on board with that. Models look cool. We don't know when it's going to come out. We're hoping it's going to come out in the next few, months. Would be nice before Christmas. I mean, did you have a chance to look at the stats of the players that have landed, Ben?
Yeah, what, like the ones they've shown off, yeah?
Yeah, so the linemen being the same as the Demons of Khorne guys, but 10k with armor, with 1 point of armor less.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Like, they're still gonna take themselves out, and the less armor, it's gonna have an impact on that.
Yeah.
But the 60k lineman is really expensive on that team. So,
like you said, when you've got a team of expensive positionals, actually being able to chuck these linemen in works really, really well. I do love these lineman models. So if you're planning on going for a packed team, this is a great way to just like get your Khorne team, and you've got the lineman for your packed team already, which I think is great. Khorne Gores are looking pretty good. 70k is cheap for what they do. I mean, it's 10k more than a Beastman, and they start with Jugs, which is a great place to be when you're a ball carrier. I think because it's cheaper than either of the demon ones, it doesn't have regeneration, which is the only difference between this and a Bloodletter. Otherwise, stats are the same. I think it's 10k less, doesn't get regenerate. But you know what? It's fine. Armor 9, I think, is actually better armor. Armor 9 plus is great. I mean, I'd rather have armor 9 plus without regen a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely.
But the Bloodseekers are hands down my favourite player on this team. 0 to 4, 110k, movement 5, strength 4, edge 4 plus, passing 6 plus, armor 10 plus. Like, they're just edge busted Chaos Warriors that start with Frenzy for 10k. Like, It's
So good.
on a chaos team. I would probably take that most of the time. It's a different dynamic, absolutely. And if I could take a chaos team with 2 bloodseekers and 2 chaos warriors, that would be perfect. But you know what?
Mhm.
This game is about trade-offs, and if you want to mix 2 teams up, come to Bonehead Bowl next year, because that is going to be our rule set, and I want to see a chaos and Khorne mixed team with 8 chaos warriors. And
That's brutal.
yeah, man, that's awesome. And that's what we can see because we've got 30 teams now. And I don't know what 30 times 29 is, but that's how many combinations of teams you got. 30 29, 870. Oh, yeah. 870 plus the original
Yeah,
30. So it's 900 combinations of teams. And that's where Blood Bowl goes to win. Yeah. No, my Bloodseekers, they are my player of the year, I think. Positional. Now, talking to player of the year, we've got Kreek Rustgouger news has dropped as well. So if you're happy, Ben, let's just go straight in and talk about Kreek, shall we?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he is cool. I've seen a lot of praise for this model. Like, whatever they've done, I think bringing in Windsor Chog and you know other artists is working because these new stars that are coming out are insanely good.
They've definitely got a little bit more of a cartoony vibe to them. If you think back to First Griff and Carla and things like that, then you look ahead at Kreek, at Max Spleen Ripper, and at Scylla, they've definitely got more of an animated vibe to them. And I don't, like you said, I don't know how much of that is Windsor Chog, because Windsor Chog likes kind of like rounded edges and that kind of soft touch, yeah, like Margin Boo kind of edge to it.
Yeah.
But I blooming love it. It brings character, and it in a world where the rest of the model lines from Games Workshop have got so much grit. Like, if you want a gritty rat ogre, there's like 7 you can buy straight from Games Workshop, and there's about 17 you can buy from a third party. But
It still has grit, though. I think that's
this one does
that's why I love it so much. Is you've got this cartoonish and kind of quite goofy looking art style, but then he's got like a chain with every single spike on it, with like spikes everywhere. Gems popping out of his arms that are like he's all stitched up together. I mean, he is gritty. He's just,
I guess,
so full of character.
But the only kind of point of criticism is because of which is hilarious. If anyone's ever watched me on YouTube, I'm about to shame myself here. Is the prospect of having a random massive fist is probably just the picture angle, but his left hand does look massive, which is brilliant because when I video, I wave my left hand around and it is just giant compared to the camera. Like it's proper like Foo Fighters Everlong style, and that's like the only negative is that his left hand looks a little bit big compared to some of the other stars. That like this, I'm picking this up as like a 9 out of 10 sculpt. I do have one legitimate concern about him. Is I hope he's going to be big enough.
Oh yeah, I mean that is a big concern. I mean, if we're factoring price and value into it, that is quite an issue. Forge World doesn't have the best value models.
Well, it's not even about that. I wouldn't mind if it was like £25 and the model was hench. Like, that's a wicked thing. But it's when you buy Skrull for £21 and he turns up smaller than a halfling. You're like, what? Is this the same? The Lord of the Rings guy done this one? Like, what? And you saw Frank when you came around this week, Ben. He is
small.
He's just small, and I don't understand why. I just scale him up. Like, this has got to be digitally sculpted. Like, stop being punga here. Just scale up your stuff 10% and, increase. Like, if you're going to do anything with a star, over embellish them. They're star players. If your star player is of a larger scale, then all you're doing is everything you've done for 40k heroes for the last 30 years. And you know what? For the last 30 years, the heroes have been the coolest models. Like, it's fine. Like, can you imagine that? If you're like, oh, cool, I'm going to get Marnius Calgar, but he's actually very small. I'm like, no. These guys are cool. Like, let's do this. But anyway, Kreek looks absolutely massive. Like, and I love the fact they've gone with the cool, like, camo paint scheme on him as well, because he's the Verminator. And did you see some of the rules we got for him, Ben?
I don't think I did. Oh no, I did. Where he comes back because he's the Verminator.
He's the Verminator, and his rule is called "I'll be back," which is
Yeah.
just so good. So Kreek, the Verminator Rustgouger, the first time in a game that Kreek Rustgouger would be sent off as per the secret weapon trait, he's just not sent off, and instead may continue as part of the game. This is the rule that Death Roller is missing.
Yeah, it really is. Like it makes it so much better value to take, and I mean you need to, because you invest a lot into these starts. He's going to be quite expensive. Although I think his old price was like 130ish, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've
So
got
it might
his
not be too bad. But
old price here actually. So in the olden days, Kreek Rustgouger was 130k, movement 5 for a strength 7 ball and chain. Edge 2 means nothing, and in the old world, armor 9. So in the new world, he's edge 5 plus, passing nothing, and armor 10 plus, which is great. Difficult when it comes to ball and chain anyway, because if they go down, they go down. Rules wise, he had ball and chain, loner, mighty blow, no hands, prehensile tail, and secret weapon. So
that's a lot for 130.
well, straight up, just a movement 5 ball and chain is huge. Like Goblin ball and chains, Ben, what's their movement?
3, isn't it?
3.
Yeah.
And you know what? In the olden days, you take a double and you're like, you know what? I don't mind the idea of sure feet on this guy, because then he's basically movement 5 with 2 go for it, and it's going to be safe, and I could just swing around and take a bunch of. The advantage here that we're talking strength 7 with mighty blow, and that if you can have up to 5 blocks, 7 blocks with a couple of go for it, you can take out multiple players in a turn. And you're fouling as well. Like Kreek Rustgouger, being able to do that stuff and being able to be on the pitch for 2 drives, which is normally the only way to defend. This is why Death Rollers are such rubbish value, is because, you deploy them and then your opponent scores quick or whatever. And it's just like, oh, cool, I got to use my 160, 170k dude for 3 turns of the game, and now I lost him. But Kreek's going to be there for an entire half. Like, basically an entire half of movement 5 ball and chain. It's
good value. I mean, we're going to see his price go up for sure. I mean, it has to with that.
Oh, he's 100. He's 170 in the new edition.
We have his price.
Yeah, the price is out. His actual stats aren't. His actual rules aren't. But even at 170k, the cool thing with this is, I know he's never going to beat out Hakflem in a constructed event, and in a league event, Hakflem's pretty good. But Kreek gives Skaven a really good bit of like murder ability. Underworld are going to appreciate that as well. Underworld can normally run their TV low enough that they can fit both. Now, this one said it's going to be available for Underworld challenge teams and for favored of Ben. So this guy should be able to play for teams with favored of and Underworld challenge, which is so many teams. Goblins are going to get to run a star player ball and chain with their cheap bribes. This is a potential here to see Goblins come back into the forefront a little bit.
I think so. Yeah,
they can do a load of cool stuff.
Though, he's not the 70k Fungus the Loon of yore though.
No, he's not. Now I'm expecting to see Kreek Rustgouger, Scylla Amphingram and Max Spleen Ripper as the 3 star players that drop in Spike 13. I would not have put Kreek in there, but I kind of posed the question when we had the Kreek reveal. I was like, how are we going to get the rules for this? Like, what does this mean? It pointed out that in the article it actually said is favoured of, and the most logical thing is for his rules to land in Spike 13. If they don't land in Spike 13, we're realistically not seeing this dude for 6 months. And there's still a massive backlog when it comes to star players. We don't have Old Rumbelow, and that's now been a year.
Yeah.
And we've seen Cheney. Cheney's not out. Did we see the model for Bryce the Slice Campbell? Or did we just see the artwork?
I have genuinely cannot remember.
This is like, and is the Croxagore out yet?
Well, the Tree Man. I think that was rumored.
A Tree Man been out for ages. What are you talking about? I was absolutely shocked, like legitimately agog the other day when I found out that the Aeronautica stuff wasn't already out. Like the new Space Marines versus Eldar thing. And we're like, pre-order now. And I was like, hang about, that's not out. Like that's previewed when I was a child. Like, what is this? I remember this being advertised when I went to see Lord of the Rings at the cinema. This is what is this? I don't know, man. Kreek, 170k. They're not being too creative with the star players when it comes to their stats. I would be really surprised if we don't see this guy drop and as an absolute bomb at movement 5, strength 7. And honestly, as a ball and chain, anything beyond that is just money. And the fact that he gets 2 drives is absolutely huge. But, Ben, historically, we've asked ourselves the question, is he better than a wizard? Do you think Kreek Rustgouger now, as we're expecting to see him, better than a wizard?
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
I'd say this is absolutely better than a wizard.
So let's ramp it up to the 2020 meta. Ben, is he better than a hack flem?
Nothing is, Ben. Nothing's better than a hack flem.
Is better than a hack flem.
Hack flem just plays the game. Kreek swings around the ball for a couple of drives and hopefully hit someone. But it's going to be like distracting enough to be a threat, and I think he's still fun. But hack flem is an issue, just in how bargain he is. I think he's going to always compete with him, and I think a lot of the teams who are in a position to take Kreek would just rather take hack flem every time. So I'm not sure.
Now this is good for Skaven teams. Skaven should probably never bother inducing hack flem if they've got the opportunity to run for gutters. Like hack flem's great, 1+ing everything forever is great, and in a tournament, yeah, sure. But what you're likely to have if you're down TV with Skaven is a need to hurt your opponent. Like you can always score touchdowns with Skaven, like it's no problem at all. Even just throw it to lineman, like that's what 6 squares for a short pass plus 14 squares of movement. Like with a 2+ and a 3+, or a 3++ and a like with a reroll, you're fine. Like you've got, what is that, 88% chance of an 88% chance. So you've got like a 75% chance of a touchdown from 20 squares away if you've got a thrower and a lineman on a Skaven team. Like that's just awesome. What you don't have is an ability to hurt people very much. And I used to love running Kreek against stuff like a dwarf team. So I'm like, cool, enjoy your skills. I'm rolling 3 dice. Like, I don't care. Like, here we go. And it just gives you that opportunity to kind of take out a couple of players and even you up on the numbers advantage. That's what I see Kreek bringing to teams that already have agility. Hack flem is so important because he brings agility and speed to teams that don't have it. And I think what we're likely to see is Kreek potentially take the place of Glart as star player number 2 in Underworld rosters.
Most likely.
Because then
I'd rather have him over Glart.
Plus half-price bribes as well. Like, so Black Orcs are going to love this guy. In a tournament environment, you can get a pretty sweet team for 1 million. So if you're running a 1200 TV tournament, actually you could probably find a way to wangle Kreek and an extra bribe onto your team because they get half-price bribes as well. But you don't even need to run a bribe because you get him for a free. He basically comes with a free auto bribe. Like, so he's gone up by 40k, but you get an auto bribe for 40k. Like, that's where we are with Kreek. Like, so 1200 TV tournaments, Black Orc teams being able to run this guy, that's a troll. 6 strength 4 pieces and a strength 7 ball and chain. Like Khorne versus Black Orc with Kreek Rustgouger is going to be a battle that I cannot wait to see as we go into next year's meta. Like that's going to be absolutely awesome. Khorne versus Black Orc straight away is going to be a heck of a matchup anyway. Yeah, but now there's actually a player that you can take for 170k that's going to allow you to bash stuff. And we don't really have that because the best you got is Varag at the moment or Morg. And Morg's awesome, and now he's costing like what 340 or something. Like it's brilliant, but that 170 is exactly half of a Morg. So you can have a Morg for the whole game, or for half the price, you can have a strength 7 dude for half the game, and that's going to be way accessible. I love that. I think that's really, really, really cool.
Yeah, so it's good. Fun.
Now the sad thing is, it's probably going to be forever until we get our hands on this model. Like, but Punga and stuff, I've got some great, like Punga, I think probably Grebo, like there's some great third-party stuff out there. And anyway, just go and buy like a Rat Ogre and convert him. Like, this is a wicked star player to have.
Yeah, he just needs a ball and chain, like some form of ball and chain, wrap some jewelry chain around a
That's
block
it.
of warpstone that probably comes in every scaling
Yeah,
kit.
what a great little
Yeah.
modelling opportunity. I think it's absolutely wicked. So there's a couple of other star players just to quickly talk through, Ben. We've seen Scylla. We've seen the model for Scylla. Again, it's got that cartoony aspect. We don't know what the rules are going to be like for this player. We did talk about, I think, what Scylla used to be, but I'd be surprised if Scylla doesn't have a very similar rule set to the Blood Spawn. No claws there. Probably Jugs, Frenzy. Scylla in the old rules was a bit of a hard pressed star to get in. I think probably not. I think this is the Chaos Varag now, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those. He's just one of those players, or one of these situations where I think if you're in a position to take Scylla, there's probably a different star out there who does it. I mean, yeah, like you say, we have to see what it's like and what he does. He might even be cheaper for Khorne, who knows? I think it'll be interesting if they start bringing in these rules where if they've got like the same favoured of, they're slightly cheaper or something.
Oh, that would be some rules I'd love to see. That would be some very cool rules I'd like to see at some point in a spike. You can't take like, here's a list of Khorne stars. You could only take Khorne stars.
Yeah.
And there's a great Blood Bowl team name. Like, there you go. The Khorne stars. Scylla, I mean, it's a Blood Beast model. I mean, Games Workshop, not so hot a release in big guys separately to the teams. Like, they struggle with that, as everyone keeps saying about the Kroxigor, like, because we don't have one. And the Tree Man took a little while to come out. No, there is still no Kroxigor. So at least we've seen the A model that you can use as a Bloodspawn. But, I mean, the cool thing is about finding your own big guys, isn't it? And the last one to talk about is Max Spleen Ripper, which is a wicked model. That's the Chainsaw star player for Chaos. And I've got to say, Ben, when Max Spleen Ripper landed, you and I talked and we said, is this Khorne? This could be a Khorne team. What if Games Workshop do a Khorne team? And we were like, no, it's probably just going to be Chaos Dwarves. No, there is a Khorne team. And I don't know, just worth celebrating very quickly that actually Games Workshop have gone a different route.
I love it. I love seeing these new things come out. It's the games, like the supporting the game, and I think that's really important. Yeah, I just love to see it. Just next stop Slaanesh, please, because I mean, I take things as they come, but I want to see the next one now.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll go into the new Team Conspiracies, then we'll bounce back into the meta. But first of all, we're going to have a quick break. And we are back, and we are going to be talking about new Team Conspiracies here. So basically, the Khorne teams landed. We did just self-congratulate ourselves on finding and observing the obvious, and our hopes absolutely landing. But we've been talking through a bunch of other stuff. We do a series on Sundays, which is the Special Team Sunday, where we look at an unofficial team in Blood Bowl, whether it's from Fumble or a homebrew or something, and just kind of point out that actually, if you want to play something different, the rules are right there for you to go and do it and incorporate them into a tournament if you want to, or whatever, or your league, or just literally build a cool team and brew your own rules, whatever. But we've been looking through the My Dugout app teams, and we're starting to notice a little bit of a trend. And we've had loads of viewers and listeners kind of flag this one up, and there's a great piece coming. But first of all, they released the My Dugout app. Now, this came out in 2016, 2017 to support the release of the kind of revamped Blood Bowl rules from Games Workshop. They had this app, and inside the app were 4 teams that were trial teams. And I think we covered them on the podcast because we were like, what the heck is this? Like, is this the future? And then it died. The app went away. Blood Bowl 2020 came around. Nothing special happened, except for one very important thing, which was that Nobility landed. Took the Bretonnian team as it was, which was an unofficial Games Workshop team. It's been floating around in one of the Blood Bowl video games, and reskinned it using essentially the theme from one of the My Dugout team apps. We'd seen this before with an ogre, with some bodyguards, with a princeling kind of guy, and the Nobility team landed with that theme, with some of the rules set from that, and wedged in and replaced the Bretonnian team. Then we looked at some of the other teams that are out there, and we've been kind of harping on about Savage Orcs because it's a wicked team. We thought it would fill the Frenzy roster slot because actually Bretonnians got gonned. What's left? Khorne and Slan. All right. Now, Ben is adamant that Slan is going to be a Slaanesh team.
100%. There's
And
no doubt.
you know what? That is, I can see that happening. I really can. But the Khorne team for Demons of Khorne, and the fact they had a Savage Orc team on there, I kind of forgot about this, and I was like, oh sweet, they're replacing the Demons of Khorne roster in Games Workshop mind. They're taking that unofficial roster, like there was Bretonnian, and there was Slan, and there was Khorne, and they've taken Bretonnian and warped them into the nobility. They've taken the Demons of Khorne team and warped them into the Khorne team. And I can't remember who it was who pointed out, but they were like, whoa, what about the Savage Orcs? Like, this roster is really similar to the Savage Orc roster in a lot of ways. The linemen are the same, which, to be fair, are very similar to Demons of Khorne. The strength 4 frenzy piece is very similar to the Savage Orc roster that was there. Now, it's very much like a hybrid, and they pointed out, they're like, we're kind of seeing a trend here of the My Dugout teams and also blending with the unofficial teams that were out there that were kind of semi-controlled by third party and the NAF, because there's no Games Workshop Bretonnian team, there's no Games Workshop Demons of Khorne team. There's kind of plenty of third party teams, and the Bretonnian team kind of got ousted and bought out and replaced with nobility, and Demons of Khorne potentially got ousted, and it fits in with that Savage Orc roster as well. There are 2 more teams on the My Dugout app. One is the Clan Pestilence team. All right, so Skaven with a not mutation, but disease, Nurgle's rot kind of vibe to them. All right, they've got some poison wind globadiers, which is weird because that's Clan Scryer. I think they're just called pox flingers or something. Same thing. Like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
And the other one is the Slayer team. So a team of absolute troll slayers, which is a wicked and a very strong roster, right? And we've seen all of these. So Ben, we've looked at the Savage Orc roster. I think we talked about it before, and we talked about the fact that the Savage Orc, build a Savage Orc team, you can use it as Demons of Khorne, you can use it as Orcs, you can just have a great time. Now the Khorne roster is here. Do we think that the Savage Orc roster is a unlikely thing to land now?
I do think so. I think, kind of as you said, it's gone the way of nobility in terms of what nobility did to Bretonnia. So I think we have. I do think we're unlikely to see it. I think we may see. We can't rule out the potential of a Savage Orc team, but in the sense of that's what the Savage Orc team represent. I don't think we will, because I think that'd just be too similar, and I think Khorne's taken that slot. Besides, we have already had quite a lot of greenskin teams released. Because Snotlings and Black Orcs are still pretty new.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite good that they went down the Khorne route instead. I think more Orcs would have been a little bit like, I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I think you're right. And the great thing about Blood Bowl, and we talked about this 100 times, is actually as long as your players are clear, you can even use, Lego or whatever, as long as your players are all lined up. And this roster here, the Khorne one, you get some blitzers on your Orc team and you put horns on them, and those are your Juggernaut Khorne yours. You get a pack of AOS brutes, and those are your 4 Bloodseekers, and then you get a bunch of Savage Orcs to be your linemen, and you're good to go. Like, the roster's great, and depending on what the blood spawn kind of lands and its rules are like, you can just convert a troll. Like, you can just run a Savage Orc team as this team. But I think you're right. I think they've taken up that slot. Now, we've got 2 trends, and this is the conspiracy angle that I love. It's not really a conspiracy, it's more of a theory, but conspiracy.
It's
more
fun
fun
to say conspiracy.
Oh, I should have
clickbait headline.
Yeah, I know, right? We should have gone with Conspiracy, but we already did that. We did that. Yeah, wicked. Right. Are they working through the My Dugout app angles, or are they going for the third party unofficial teams, Ben? Because the way I see it, they've gone for 2 of those, and they're 2 on either side.
Yeah, I think they're going through the dugout. I think it just so happens that it coincides with that. I think the fact that we've had these two that are so similar, I think it's absolutely the case. And what you said before with the Khorne team looking pretty similar to the AOS counterpart, I really don't think a Slayer team is that unlikely now because they have a whole Age of Sigmar army for Slayers. You know, be a very easy conversion on their part to make a Blood Bowl team out of them.
I, that's the thing that I'm a little bit baffled by, like why we don't potentially see more Blood Bowl teams that are kind of just taken using very similar assets from Age of Sigmar. I'm sure it's just a release thing. Okay,
Yeah, I think it's just a critical mass thing. You just try and drip feed it instead, rather than release everything at once and people get overwhelmed and don't buy
yeah,
half of it.
and you know what? That's absolutely fine. So remaining teams on the Dugout app, we've got Clan Pestilence, Slayer team, and from the other unofficial teams version, we've got Slan/Kislev. Where do you think? Do you think Games Workshop are going to go down the route of what? And you know what? Let me rephrase that. We've seen them kind of go the My Dugout route back. We've seen them go the NAF teams route. There is another route there that is, I think, absolutely bang on two of those three, which is are they just fleshing out the Chaos teams because they can route? There's a Nurgle team. Why isn't there any? Well, there's a Khorne team now. Are we going to see more Chaos teams, Ben?
I just hope so. I don't know if we can say that for sure. I mean, we can't predict the future, and Games Workshop do mix things up and do things out of the ordinary quite often. I would love to. I think the scope is there. They all deliver a very, very, very different style of play. Or at least I would assume so. But Nurgle plays differently to Khorne so far. Slaanesh Slaanesh and Tzeentch are very distinctly different in terms of their aesthetics. I imagine they play differently. So I mean, I'd like to see it. I think while we can't predict if they're going to, I think eventually it has to happen.
I think you're right. I think it has to happen. Now, would you want them to see, when it comes to those other teams, there's more a variety kind of in the roles of the armies, okay, than there is. Khorne and Nurgle have a very similar template, which is fodder, elites, mute and beast angle, and Chaos have kind of had that angle across the times. But Slaanesh and Tzeentch are very much, I feel, more heavily imbued in the Chaos element than the human element, potentially. Would you want to see the Slaanesh and Tzeentch teams fit the same formula as Khorne and Nurgle, or would you want them to be more of their own thing?
100% more their own thing. I think we have a lot of teams already which are kind of like, here are your humans and then here are your strength 4 guys, which Khorne and Nurgle have already proven to have. I wouldn't like to see that for Slaanesh and Tzeentch. I think they just don't fit that criteria to me. Like if you had, Tzeentch warriors, to me that's just not really what Tzeentch is about. I think I'd want more, change in there, more, things either happening on the fly or just more like fodder and splitting open and stuff like that. Just it needs to be bizarre. And for Slaanesh, I mean, raw strength isn't really the deal with that. It's all about, litheness and that word, litheness.
Yeah, that'll do. I got told off as using winningest the other day.
Winningest.
So.
Liedevity.
Yeah. So, all right, let's start with Tzeentch. Don't know why I added the extra syllable in there. What could you see that team like? What would you rather see that team land as, instead of like, here's my cultists, here's my warriors, here's my beastman, here's my big guy, which I actually love as a format, and I'm fine with them producing more teams that kind of. I wouldn't want them to produce those teams and not the more creative teams. So for a Tzeentch team, what kind of angle would you want to see them go down?
Well, that's what I mean. Just different. I want them to be really, really weird. Like, because that is Tzeentch. Like, Tzeentch is the whole thing where, you can look at a Tzeentch warrior 1 minute, close your eyes or just blink, and then he'd be something else. I mean, that is in the lore. That is Tzeentch. It's just ever changing, and it's very hard to represent that on a tabletop.
So what if
But I would
Tzeentch,
love it.
what if they landed as a stunty team?
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love for you to have horrors that split. You know, you can have your pink horrors, and then maybe when they go down, you suddenly have two titchy players. How cool would that be? I think like that would just be like super thematic and really different, and introduce a whole new style of play, which I think is what we're getting with a lot of these newer teams, like Nobility and Snotlings. I feel are a very different style of play to what we're kind of used to.
Yep.
Bretonian players probably feel more at home with Nobility, but for a lot of people who might not see Bretonian much on the tabletop, that is very different to play that team. Snotlings, I mean, I can
Oh,
say with
wow.
experience now,
Yeah.
really weird to play.
Better than
I
you
think,
think.
when we saw the Black Hawk team coming with all the grab and stuff, that makes them a really hard control team.
And even though that's the same cookie cutter build style as Lizardmen, they play massively differently.
They do.
Like,
Yeah.
I think we talked about this where we're like, oh, they're just kind of like worse Lizardmen, aren't they? Oh, lol. But actually, like, the team has its own strengths and its own vibe. And the Khorne team here, even though it's got the same kind of cookie cutter as Nurgle, is going to play out massively differently. And you're exactly right, Ben. Knobs played differently than any other team, except Bretonians, but actually that's because that Bretonian experience was missing from Games Workshop's version of this game. Like Khorne Frenzy, we're looking at this and being like, oh yeah, it's really, it's like Demons of Khorne, but different here. Well, you know what? If you are not familiar with Blood Bowl as a community or the NAF, like, this is new to you. This is like, wow, we've got like a frenzy heavy team. This is wicked. Like, this is like a team full of troll slayers. This is going to be great fun. Like, this is what I want out of my frenzy team. Like, this is a whole team of minotaurs. This is carnage. Like, we've seen that, and we've always said that actually the play styles that you get from that Khorne team is so unique and worth doing that they're bringing that in. And you're right. Like, there's so much design space with Tzeentch and Slaanesh that they can go super way. So, if the Tzeentch team, they end up doing stunty demons, I love that idea of stuff splitting. I do think they'll have Tzeentch warriors. I can just see him being like 4 Tzeentch warriors and a bunch of strength 2 blue horrors or something. Like, I don't know. It would make more sense to have like pink horrors, but that's a Tzeentch demon team. Like, there's a ton of cool stuff they can do with that team. Personally, I'd love to see stunty with some really good throwers, because actually really slow, but so the warriors landing, but actually having passing 2+, like, would be massively different. Like, no one else has got that. Like, Edge 3+, passing 2+, and a bunch of movement 6, movement 7 stunty players. Like, you've got a really fast, movable team with an air game that you don't expect or see from anybody else. Like, that would just be something really sweet.
I think something that could be this is me now throwing out, like, this will never happen. I'll say this now, this will never happen. But there is a weapon in 40k for the orcs called the Bubble Chucker, and the rules for that have changed every edition. But there is, I think it was the previous one, where you basically roll 4 dice and you assign that to, like, well, you have your movement. You'll be the equivalent of like movement, strength, passing, agility.
Yeah.
And every time you shoot it, you roll those 4 dice and assign that to different stats. I think for some, like, having like a Tzeentch warrior where you roll 5 dice and then assign those values to that for the drive or whatever, I think that would be unbelievable.
So the fumbled Tzeentch team's got a big guy called the Changeling, and before every game you randomly determine whether it's a troll, an ogre, or a minotaur. Like, that's quite a fun way to do it. But yeah, that change element of Tzeentch, it's
the unpredictability. Yeah,
it could be a really unique thing because no other team has that, right?
That's the beauty of Blood Bowl, that compared to so many other games out there, balance doesn't really matter in this. We all go into Blood Bowl games knowing that some teams are just better than others. Like, you don't rock up with your goblins and be just like, right, come on, Dark Elves, take a seat. We're gonna
I'm angry because my 1 million points of goblins didn't perform against your 1 million points of Black Orcs. It's like, well, they're different.
Exactly.
They're different. Like, do different things with them.
It leaves so much room to just make really bizarre creative stuff when you don't have to worry about balance, like every other miniatures or most other miniatures games out there which have balance, at the root of its design ethos.
I think
here you can just make something wacky from the get-go and be just like, oh, it's not balanced. That's fine, they're tier 3.
And it's just how it is.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like Blood Bowl, and I think it's why I like something like Magic the Gathering, because in Magic the Gathering, all decks are not made equal. They're not. You build it. You choose what your angle is. And sometimes you'll run a deck and you'll be like, actually, I just want this one fun thing to go off every few games, and that's what I'm looking for. That's the Goblin team. You know, that's Snotlings. Like, I want to go for the cool throw teammate. I want to go for the massive frenzy wipe or something like that. And that's what you get from the game. So Tzeentch, they could go absolutely anywhere because it's the god of fate, the god of change. But Slaanesh, Ben, this is your soapbox moment. What do you think we'll see when they do Slaanesh?
Right, so you know the Slan team. All jokes aside, I think that is probably what I really, really do think that's what we'll see, and I'm happy to take the L when it's not. But I mean, I'm gonna take a fat W if it is, because I've been saying this for weeks. I think having a team which just is purely focused on agility, but not in the elven way, where they're just good at it because they're elves. I think having them where they kind of trick it out, where like Slan do, where they've got like very long legs and things like that. It's agility in a different way. It's not just good at everything. I think that's very Slaanesh, where everything is just sort of perfect, where you have a turn which is just executed flawlessly because the players have done their thing they're really good at once every turn. So you have someone who's just the best at throwing, but that's all they can do. And then you have someone who can leap over a player really well, but that's all they can do.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really interesting point for Slaanesh.
And the roster itself would be fine. I mean, if you look at the way all the Chaos teams are laid out, they've got a lineman that has a thing. So the Chaos team, they're Beastmen. Their thing is Horns. Nurgle, their thing is just being garbage. You know, and Khorne, their thing is being Frenzy. Well, actually, if these guys and their thing is doing a leap thing, being pogo stick, and that's all they do with the same armor, because they got to be lightly armored. They are fragile. Now, Slan linemen are actually sneaky, some of the best linemen in the game, because they are human linemen with good strength, good speed, and good armor, and good agility with the 3+, and they also just for 10k can bamf 2 squares away on a 3+. Like they are underrated in my opinion. But you know, if they brought them on at 50k with pogo and lower armor in the same way they've done with these guys here to make the team more vulnerable to self-destruction, which is what you see from Khorne here, and I think if they did the same thing with Slaanesh, that would be wicked. And then there is no strength 4 player on Slaanesh, so I don't know if they would bring on warriors for Slaanesh either.
I would honestly see them more than I would on Tzeentch. I just associate warriors more with Slaanesh than Tzeentch. I don't know if that's just my exposure to what Warhammer,
Slaanesh
like
is.
my Warhammer lore. But I can imagine like Mirror Knights and things, and the new Myrmidesh guys and Age of Sigmar. I just can picture that kind of elite warrior more for Slaanesh, but I don't think that would be what I want from their team.
And even when it comes to the big guy, like there's a Crocs on a Slan team, and the fact is that the Crocs' thing is it's a big dude, quite fast with prehensile tail. Like that fitting in a Slaanesh team would make a load of sense, and that's even if they went with that angle. But having a pogo stick, the leap angle for that team with that kind of agility angle, there's a few guys with really good agility, but they're vulnerable. Like it could absolutely translate brilliantly in, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went that route and they brought this in and everyone was like, oh wow, okay, Slan and now Slaanesh, like goodbye to that roster. Games Workshop have taken one element of the game that they've seen from the community is a fun thing, right? The thing of that team is pogo stick, the thing of the Khorne team is frenzy, the thing of Bretonnians is just making your opponents miserable, you with the fend and garbage everywhere, right? It's just they've taken those things and they've done it twice now, and if that's what they do with Slan, they land that Slaanesh team and they bring it on, that would be a great way to get a unique style of play into the game proper, okay, and a really unique IP thing, which is big for Games Workshop when it comes to their stuff. Slaanesh in there. Now, however, I'm ardent when it comes to their nostalgia sales at the moment. We've had a Zote back. They've brought some Rattlings back in 40k. There's been an Amble. They're bringing stuff back from the olden times because they can. It's IP friendly. And even though the Slaanesh thing is probably more logical, I legitimately could see them bringing back Slan as is, like as lizard people, to add to the jungle realms. Okay, to bring them back, to go for the nostalgia trip of like, here's the Slan, the ancient space alien. I can see them doing it because actually that they've trended towards that the last few years. They've trended towards taking the old stuff that they can build on history that kind of inspires other people. And I think if they brought a Slan team back as actual space frogs, there'd be a ton of people that pick them up for 40k, like, because it's Slan.
Yeah.
I can see them doing it because it would be such a throwback, and it would.
Wouldn't it? Could you imagine that announcing with the old world? They're just
Mate,
like bringing the Slan team into Blood Bowl, and everyone's just like, "Whoa!" And they're coming as an army in the old world, and we're like, "What?"
it would be, yeah, even a Slan team landing. Like when the Zote landed, there was a huge amount of like hubbub about that. They were like, dude, Zotes are back, like this is wicked, like that.
Yeah.
This is it. I can, and for that reason alone, I can see them bringing a Slan team back. Like, I don't know which one of these things I prefer. I think I'd love to see a Slan Space Frog team come back. I love the Slan roster with the exception of the Blitzers because they're just not. They just don't do anything
Boring.
good. They just don't do good stuff. Like, they're okay. They're fine. Like, the catchers are awesome. They're less awesome now because passing got nerfed. I don't know. Maybe them being evolved, because actually I really like what they've done with Bretonnians into nobility. They're technically not as good because those 4 blitzers were just better than 2 blitzers and an ogre, but actually it's fine. It's a lateral, right? And with this team here, if we lose the Bloodthirster, but actually we gain a more mid-range team as opposed to a garbage plus Bloodthirster. Now we've just like got garbage and more people who aren't garbage. Like, I think that's kind of, they're going for that mid-range consistency vibe. They do that with Slan as well. Bring it in as Slaanesh and do that. Like, it's just an awesome way to go. However, I will, one word, Ben, Squigs.
You are keen to get the Squigs.
There is no hint, no inkling, no nothing from Games Workshop about a Squig team. But we need more stunty teams, and they love Squigs, and everybody loves Squigs, and
Everybody does love Squigs.
there's no team that plays like Squigs. You put some Squig hoppers, you put some Squigs, you put a load of rubbish goblins, and you've got a team. Like, you don't need to do anything else, and people will love it. The box set will sell for every game system, whether it's 40k, so you've got some kind of cool grots. If it's an AOS, so you've got some fun hoppers and some fun Squigs to vary up. And then Blood Bowl, because it will be a team that runs riot and does stuff that no other team does. Like, we're missing out by not having Squig teams. And I know this because we've played with the Fumble versions, and they're amazing fun. And
do you think like there would be an element of it, of them not? So this is just me throwing out a hypothetical here, but I feel like if they were to do a Squig team, I just can't see them doing it because I can't see them selling it as like Blood Bowl. I just can't see them Blood Bowlifying Squigs.
you can't see me, Ben, but I'm pointing to the Khorne team right now.
Yeah, but they look, some of them carrying a ball at least. You can't make a. Well, I guess you could stick it in a Squig's mouth, couldn't you?
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
no. Squig hoppers. I see what you mean about using a Squig as a player.
Yeah.
Like, having a Squig as a player is definitely something that is a bit like, actually, why is there horse on this team? Like, I totally get that. And that's probably going to be one of the design elements that they struggle with. But, you know, they love the old X 6 and 1 roster, right? So just put X 0 to 16 goblins, 6 Squig hoppers, and a troll, right? And then, you know, you've got a bunch of dudes who've got animal savagery, and you've got goblins, and the whole angle is that everyone's got pogo, but they're animal savage. So sometimes it's going to play out brilliantly, sometimes it's going to play out awfully, or you get a Squig, and Squigs are all ball and chains. Like, that's what their deal is. You just get 0 to 4 Squigs who are strength 4 ball and chains, and they just chomp their way through the opponent. Like, that would be thematic, and as a secret weapon, it covers you, right? I feel like it would be different than the teams we see now. And yes, having a Squig as a player is questionable, but probably as questionable as like a rot spawn. But as a
Yeah, really good point.
as a secret weapon, good to go. As a hopper,
Yeah.
we've got Madcap Migs, who's not a secret weapon. We are good to go.
Mhm.
There's just a ton of cool stuff they could do there. I want to see more stunty teams. Like, it doesn't affect the balance of the game. Like, I want to see a troll team. I want to see a tree man team. Like, just there's so much design space for them to go. However, back on point, Clan Pestilence I think is potentially unlikely. There's just not enough uniqueness there, I think, to sell it. But Slayers, Ben, I
I could
think
see this. I really could see this.
they
What's the Slayer roster like currently?
what the My Dugout one.
Yeah.
So they've got a whole bunch of juniors who are not not Slayers. So they've got 0 to 4 Troll Slayers. They've got 2 Giant Slayers or Dragon Slayers who are Strength 4. Let me see. Where's my special team? Sunday Slayers. Here we go. I'll tell you what, let's put it up on the screen. Let's go over here. And let's get rid of Kreek Rustgouger. GG's. GG's, my friend. And let's bring up the roster from Special Teams Sunday Slayer, because I can't remember. Special Team Sunday, where it is. There we go. So the Slayer hold roster: 0 to 16 Beast Slayers, 60k; 0 to 4 Troll Slayers, that's proper Troll Slayers, at 90k; 0 to 2 Skaven Slayers at 70k; and 0 to 2 Dragon Slayers at 170. So the Beast Slayer linemen, I don't think they come with Dauntless. I don't think they come with Frenzy. I think they're just like worse armored. What are you? Let's click you. Beast Slayer lineman, 0 to 16, 60k. Oh yeah, 6337 Dauntless Thick Skull. So low armor. So in the new edition, that would be armor 8+, which is proper vulnerable. They've got Thick Skull, so they're kind of using that what I'm going to call Goblin Bruiser defense of just having lower armor but Thick Skull keeping them on the pitch more. And with Dauntless, I think that's solid agility. So you've got basically an Amazon linewoman as your Beast Slayer, but they come with Dauntless and Thick Skull instead of Dodge. So gonna play out fine. The best piece though, I can't remember what let's have a look at the Skaven Slayers. So the Skaven Slayers were 5-3-2-8, so Edge 4+ now, armor 9+, break, tackle, frenzy, nerves of steel, thick skull. Really weird player type.
It is weird.
I didn't.
Nerves of steel.
It's baffling. I think basically what this is cheap Troll Slayers, because they're 20k less than the Troll Slayer and they've got frenzy. Just Nerves of Steel with Edge 2 is just garbage. So
yeah, that seems really odd skill for them to have. I'm not sure where that comes from. Is that just more of a thematic thing?
I don't
the
know.
Fact they're like Skaven Slayers or something?
The Savage Orc team had a thrower positional that was Frenzy, Nerves of Steel, which I do kind of like, because actually, not just from a throwing point of view, but from a receiving point of view. So it's just this guy is catching the ball on a 4+ forever, and then would be able to frenzy, break, tackle out of a way, like could just absolutely bruise his way through something. So I could see that being an angle, but the piece here was the Dragon Slayers, and this is just filth. 0 to 2 Dragon Slayers, 170k each, movement 5, strength 4. Somehow Edge 3, armor 9, right? So in the new world, Edge 3+, armor 10+, block, Juggernaut, Dauntless, stand firm, thick skull. No frenzy, but strength 4 God Warriors there. This is a Chaos Warrior with block, jugs, Dauntless, stand firm, thick skull.
That's insane.
Yeah.
We can see what they're 170k, but that's crazy.
And this was definitely something to bring up about the My Dugout app teams, is they were all a bit overpowered. Like the original Princeling one, which basically just got the skin got taken off and put onto the Bretonnian team to create the nobility team, was actually pretty OP. The Orc Frenzy one was fine, because it's actually very similar to Demons of Khorne in a lot of ways. It's just basically like putting together Demons of Khorne and Orcs, and you've got the roster sorted. Slayers. even if it's not this roster, and I think they're more willing to like take the theme, that like take the theme of the team and change the rules up for good gameplay. I think they're happy to do that. Like a Troll Slayer team with lighter armored, you know, armor 9+ dwarves without tackle for 60k, right? Actually, they start with block still. They're just human linemen with block, or maybe an edge boost, edge down, but they're human linemen with block for 60k. Like, interesting. Like, they're, a bit worse than the standard orc thing. And you've got a bunch of troll slayers, and you've got some dragon slayers, or you've got like a ranger or something, just to change up what they do with the dwarf roster. I don't know, but I think it's more that actually from an IP point of view, Games Workshop have got some really unique stuff, and that's why I'm so like, dude, let's see a Squig team, is because if you look at Warhammer, some of like the top unique things they've got is the Chaos Gods, absolutely, right? They've got Skaven, absolutely, Squigs, Snotlings, some of the fun stuff, Dwarf Slayers, like they've got those. Like there's just a bunch of like, why is there no Slayer team? Like they love Slayers. There's a whole army of iconic Slayers. People who love
like, even like, any nerd, like you are right. Like if you ask any kind of nerd or any kind of geek, like I should say geek, that's a better word. Show them a Slayer. I imagine Warhammer comes to mind for a lot of people. Yeah. Like even I wasn't huge in Warhammer, like 5 years ago. That's actually exaggerating. God, time goes fast. 7 years ago, I barely knew anything about Warhammer, but I could look at a Slayer and tell you that's Warhammer.
Yeah, it was on the front cover of the Warhammer Fantasy Rulebook for 30 years. The roleplay book, sorry. But like, there's those iconic things that I'm a little bit surprised we don't have yet, because that would just be a bomb. Like, and I guess thinking about it from a commerciality point of view, Squigs, Slayers, Chaos Gods, absolute bombs, like almost auto purchase. I actually think the Chaos Gods are probably lowest on that because they lack the uniqueness because of the other ones. They have to kind of key in on them hard. Khorne, absolute no-brainer. No effort was needed to develop the Khorne team at all, right? A Slayer team, a Squig team, you've got that kind of old school fantasy vibe with the uniqueness of Warhammer, and quite frankly, it'd be really hard to build those teams that to not play in a unique enough way. Like, even if the Slayers, you don't have to give, like, just don't give them all frenzy by all means, but actually give your positionals frenzy, and you've got a challenge. Like, I'd love to take a dwarf team where I can't take blitzers, but I can take extra Slayers. Like, it's just a different way to play. And they've got a ton of different things they could do with a Slayer team. They've got a ton of things they could do with a Squig team. Slaanesh and Tzeentch and everything. They've got just these absolute corking IP things. But my last question for you, Ben, is would you rather see these new teams be developed or see them finish off the teams of legend?
Honestly, new teams. Just new teams. And the reason being, a lot of like it's just new. It's just new. That's kind of the easy way I can see it. It's like I like it when Games Workshop release things that are just fresh. And like thing is with like Amazon and stuff like that, or Chaos Dwarf, is we have really good options already for these teams. I struggle to get excited over new releases for things that exist, especially from Games Workshop. So the fact that Games Workshop are creating this, like when they drop the new ones, like Snotlings, I found that really exciting, and like Nobility, I thought was really exciting, and even this Khorne, I do find really exciting because it is different enough. It is different, with like the player types. Yeah. So I would like to see new things coming. I think this Dugout angle would be more interesting to me. What about you?
I actually agree, and I think the problem is when you've saturated yourself in Blood Bowl, like the way some of us have, I'm done with Amazon team. Like, I know I get them. Like, I'm done with Norse, like, and Chorf. Like, I get them. Like, I know what they do. I've played against them. I've played with them. Like, I understand their angle. This new Khorne team, quite similar to the other Khorne team, but I've not played it. I've not played this build. I've not played against this build. And this is why we love the format of mixed teams, is because you're going to rock up. You're going to have your two teams. They're going to have you're going to be playing against a team you've never played before. with a team you've never played before. And the more new teams they drop into Blood Bowl, the more variance you get, the more new experience you get, and it does shake the mold a bit. Now, we're going to talk about the meta and the mold in a second, but like, I am a huge fan of the new teams, and I guess, don't get me wrong, like, I love all of Blood Bowl, and Chorf teams are great, Norse are great, Khemri is just wonderful. But I think I would have been happier if they'd said, and hadn't brought the Teams of Legend back, and then introduced them as they went along, so that there was kind of like a proper new experience as we went, which is kind of where I thought they were going at the beginning of that. It's not what they did in the end.
Okay.
As they update the Teams of Legend, I think they need to change them up a little bit, or it's going to be a really meh release. The team will be great, like, that's awesome, but if Amazons just drop and it's the same Amazon roster with no changes, it's going to be like, oh, okay, well, I already have my Amazon team from Black Scorpion, and that's all.
I think that's kind of like quite important though. Is like we're obsessive when it comes to like collecting models, and a lot of people we play with are obsessive. There are a lot of players out there who that would upset, I think, where people get attached to their teams they have, and if it was to just change like ever so slightly, but it's enough to make their team they currently own kind of redundant.
Oh, but they've done that.
I think
This is, I mean, when they did the new edition, because there was that period, that month, where we didn't know if the Teams of Legend were going to exist. Like, they could have cut clean at that point, taken that damage, because actually we haven't produced this team for 20 years, so we've gone into a new edition. We haven't produced, you know, what is it? They Time of Legend it from AOS. Like, they could have gone that angle and then just re-brought them in for the extra buzz. They didn't do that. You are right, Ben. They did the old school players a solid by introducing that, by keeping those rules static. So. And I think this is why we're seeing them create those new teams, is because, Ben, you are an IT kind of guy, right? What is more fun, solving a new problem, or going back and finishing off, or, you know, I've solved a problem, now I need to copy it and do 6 different variations. What do you do? Like, where do you go?
I mean, I do quite like solving new ones. Yeah,
everybody does, right? And that's it. And if we look at the last 4, 5, 6 teams that Games Workshop have dropped, they were what did we drop? OWA, brand new team. Underworld, new-ish team, like they changed it up because of the sprue, which is questionable, but actually has led to the team being way more interesting. So OWA, Black Orc, Nobility, Khorne, Snotlings. Like, the only team that we've seen that we had before was Underworld, which changed slightly, and Necro, which changed slightly. So that's like the last 5, 6 teams are all new teams to the game in one way or another. And I know there's a lot of people who are a little bit worried about them never getting around to the Teams of Legend teams, and they do seem to be quite happy just redoing the old ones and selling them. But you know what? Maybe that's the best thing for them. If you want to run a high elf team, pick up their made-to-order team when it comes out, and then they can focus their new releases on giving new experiences for every player. And I feel like that's their angle right now. So there is definitely an element of, oh no, we're never going to get a Chorf team from Games Workshop. But actually, if there's third-party teams, they've got rules for them. What would you rather have? The same rules, but you have to pay £13 or £30 to pick up the spike of the team, or would you rather just still play the team you've got and then have another team? So I feel like that's better for the game, and it also introduces change and stops that sameness happening. We've got 30 teams in Blood Bowl now, Ben. Like, that's awesome.
It is very cool. I think it's one of these games which, one of the reasons I love playing it is the variety. Like, every game you rock up and it's different, which you don't often get that with miniature games.
No, definitely not. Anyway, talking of games all being the same, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back to look at the Blood Bowl meta. And we're back. So Mike Davies was the president of the NAF for a while and is an absolute data head. What he's done is put together basically what we were trying to work through when we were looking at the monthly meta episodes on our YouTube channel, is all the games that have been recorded by the NAF at tournaments for Blood Bowl 2020. And he's done a superb tableau, and I'll put the link in the show notes below. If you watch the monthly meta, then you already know some of this, but I wanted to chat through it with Ben because actually it's much more fun to talk through things than it is to talk about things. So looking at the competitive results from Blood Bowl 2020, this is constructed Blood Bowl. This is competitive. I build my team. Each tournament, as we've said many times, Ben, each tournament runs its own rules, right? There's always different stuff. There's always like, yay, my whiteboard is working. This is good. There's always differences, and that's probably the unifying thing about Blood Bowl. The only consistent thing is inconsistency when it comes to Blood Bowl, whether it's the team, the rules, the tournament, the players. Actually, the players are pretty consistently great. But when we look at the results, we're going to just talk through who the best teams are. Have you had a look at the data yet, Ben?
I certainly have.
All right. Top team.
It's interesting.
The top team is no surprise to anybody. It is Underworld Denizens, sitting at an average win rate of 62% and 644 games recorded. So the chart here is towards the right is the teams with the most games recorded. Towards the top is the teams with the most win rate. And Underworld Denizens is sitting slap bang top right of the chart. 644 games. The only teams that were played more was Dwarf at 687, Undead at 655, Orc at 675, Humans at 673, and Black Orc at 651. Like, that's it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's the fifth most popular one, but it's only 40 games short of being the same, like the most popular team to play, and it is miles ahead, 6% win rate ahead of the next closest team. So Underworld absolutely storming it, and it is unabashedly because of the star player influence. It's because of Hackflem. It's because of Morg being able to be taken at a cheaper rate. The Underworld Denizens roster itself is actually really good. And even without Hackflem, I think we'd see it be performing in that 45 to 55 mid-range bracket. And we'll talk through the meta, and then we'll talk about the meta. Because I think Ben, for you, looking at this chart, look at this stat. What's the other standout point here?
I mean, the poor goblins.
Absolute garbage time down here. 37% win rate for goblins, 465 games played. Like, it's just they lose. Underworld are literally winning 2 out of 3 matches. Goblins are winning 1 out of 3. And
That's really problematic. These stats are really bad for game balance. I mean, like anything over 55% is a real issue.
That are standouts. But if you look at this chunk of midsection, every other team, now we're talking 29 teams here because the new Khorne team isn't out yet. So 27 of the 29 teams are sitting well within 10% of each other. All right, there's outliers. So let's take off Demons of Khorne and Black Orcs. Let's take off Dwarf, Chorf, and High Elves. All these teams are sitting at like 52 to 46%. That's
really good.
That's really tight.
Yeah.
That is really tight. Now, Underworld are running away with the world. And if we look at the top 5 teams, you've got Underworld at 62%, High Elves at 56%, Chaos Dwarf and Dwarf at 55%, and Amazon at 5th place at 53%. Even Slann at 53%, right? So good job, the few people who've been running Slann. That includes just everybody who's been running Slann. So Norse at 53 as well. So look to the top 5, Ben. We've got Underworld, Amazon, Chaos Dwarf, and High Elf. Do you think there is a pattern within those top 5 teams?
I can't see it. I might be blind.
Cool. Amazons, their primary skill is dodge. Underworld,
okay,
their primary skill is dodge. Hackflem's got dodge. Gutter Runner's got dodge. Goblins, Snotlings, dodge. Chaos Dwarf and Dwarf, primary skill, block and tackle.
Oh, yeah.
It's a hard counter here. So Amazons, you've got a bash team with a dodge advantage. You've got Underworld, who are a dash team with a dodge advantage. And you've got Chaos Dwarf and Dwarf, who have that inbuilt natural tackle counter. So in the top 5, you've got 2 teams that rely heavily on the dodge skill, right? Not necessarily dodging. If you're looking at Amazons, you shouldn't be dodging all that much. What you should be doing is just laughing at your opponent when they block you, unless that opponent is a Chaos Dwarf or a Dwarf team, because that tackle is going to smack you down. And that's just those 2 teams, Chaos Dwarf and Dwarf, are just getting free rolled advantage against Amazons and Underworld. So there's that top trifecta, and Chorf and Dwarf are absolutely a rock paper scissors situation to Underworld, and to Snotlings as well, as I found out at the top table of Sandbowl. But Ben, I thought you'd really love this. The other team in the top 5, which I can't explain because it's come out of absolutely nowhere. It's just the biggest surprise to me. Flipping High Elves at 56% win rate.
That's really good. I mean, the game number is a bit lower than some other teams on there, but 172 is still a pretty good sample size. So this is really surprising, and yeah, I'm happy to see it. I'm wondering if maybe the new passing game has an influence on this. I'd be intrigued to see like how many completions are in this in these games and stats. Because they do that very well.
So the one thing I did consider when I saw the trend of High Elves is actually the Dark Elf team's greatest strength is that combination of Edge 2+ and Armor 9+, right? They can take a beating, they don't melt as soon as you look at them, but they've still got that Edge 2 angle. High Elves, they've got the armor, they've got that Edge 2 angle, but they also can throw, and they also have movement 8 players. So they've got the speed, they've got the armor resistance, they've got a bit of a throw game. They don't have the bash potential that Dark Elves do with the 2 Witch Elf and 4 Blitzer blend, but actually High Elves can just mid-range their way to success because they're 2+ dodging everywhere. They've got armor 9+, which means they're not just going to fade away. They can throw like almost nobody else, and they've got some movement 8 stretch threats. So actually the High Elf roster, although a little bit bland perhaps, actually is what we should be looking at from a statistic and skill blend that just allows you to play the game in all phases very well. Like, they're not outstanding in any way. They're just very good at everything. Good to very good at everything. And that allows them to... So the High Elf coaches there are just going and playing Blood Bowl, and they don't care what the hell's going on. Like, hey, wow, who's this Hagflem guy? Sweet, oh, that's a really cool player. And I'll move 7 squares here, and I'll throw a quick pass to this guy, catch it on a 2+, and then 8 squares to the touchdown. Like, no, okay, cool touchdown. Like, what strength is he? Strength 3. Cool. Oh, here's my blitzer. They can just do stuff. Like,
and they benefit very much from this tournament setting as well. With Resurrection, that's quite a big deal for High Elves because they do struggle in League because
High Elf
Armor 9
just
gets you
died.
so far. And they're very expensive to replace.
But we saw High Elves excel in 7s really early on, which makes sense because you got a 4 positional limit, and when you run Elven Union, you end up having spare cash. So actually, if you've got expensive positionals and you can only take 4, it doesn't matter how expensive they are. You're just going to take 4, right? So I got that from a High Elf point of view. I was like, well, yeah, like they're just Elf Union with better linemen. Well, it turns out that's actually a really good place to be. So in this rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock of the top 5 teams, Amazon and Underworld lose out to Chaos Dwarf and Dwarf. They lose out to mid-range to faster teams that just do everything, like High Elves. So, and High Elves just don't have a strength or a weakness against Amazons and Underworld. Amazons want to be bash, High Elves can bash back, or they can just 2+ dodge away. Underworld just want to combo their way to victory, and High Elves are just going to score back and actually be resilient enough to take it. It's a really interesting top 5. Now, there's a couple of other great things in there. First of all, Slan, 166 games, the least games played. Only behind... Demons of Khorne, bless them. 53% win rate. Elf Union, 52. Wood Elves, 51 with 226. So what are we looking at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wood Elves, the 7th least played team.
Yeah, that's surprising. They've always been... I can't say that always. I haven't played Blood Bowl for nearly as many years as many other people have.
Basically always, yeah.
But I've remembered them always being super popular. especially in tournaments.
Now, it could be that actually the divide between Wood Elves and Elf Union is actually pretty slim. So actually, if you combine those teams together, there's 400 games, which puts them up there with Skaven and Snotlings as popularity. So it could be that if someone's like, I want to play an Elf team, High Elves, Elf Union, and Wood Elf, there's not a huge amount in it, except that High Elf win percentage is significantly better. Right, 56 for High Elves, 52 for Union, and 51 for Wood Elf. Like, if you add those up, there's about 600 games in there, which would put them up with, flipping Lizardman, Underworld, Black Orc. It could just be that actually the people who want to run that are divided. But, I mean, Wood Elves, 226. There are more people who want to run Chaos Renegades than Wood Elves. To be fair, packs are pretty fun these days.
They are fun.
Yeah, they're really fun. Like, I've been really impressed with them. Nobility and Nurgle are up there with more games than those, which I never thought I'd see. OWA being at 202 games, and Vamps at 210, and Khorne at 146. Like, Khorne loses out in every way here. They've got a 43% win rate, which is the second worst one behind Goblins, and they've got the lowest number of games. So actually, this new Games Workshop team coming in, and I don't think we're going to see. I think we're going to see the win percentage and the number of games played for Demons of Khorne drop off when the new team comes, because I think a lot of the Khorne players are going to just upgrade to that 4 warrior build. And we're going to see a load of new players potentially go and try that out. But again, we're going to see numbers drop from other bashy teams to get there. One thing I'm super proud of, Ogres sitting there at 50% win rate. Like, bang in the middle of the table. Bang in the middle.
I'm really baffled to see Nurgle above Chaos and Black Orcs, but that's got to be a hack phlegm thing.
On the win percentage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Their linemen are 35k? 40k?
Mm-hmm.
So in a tournament, in a Resi environment where vulnerability doesn't matter, and you can get more cash for your star players, like Nurgle in a tournament setting, looking pretty good. Like, you get 4 strength, 4 warriors, you get 2 to 3 of the Pestigors, what you want, you get a Rot Spawn to put on the line, and then you get Hack Phlegm to go and score, and you've got some linemen who don't really want to do anything, but they're still strength 3, so you don't miss out. Like, the only thing they're bad at is living and dodging. Well, don't dodge, and if they die, just replace them, because actually 2 of those are the same price as 1 lineman on some other teams. So actually, when it comes to tournament, yeah, Nurgle don't have a lot of edge, but when you can buy all your Pestigors and a Hack Phlegm, like, what do you need? Like, you know this, Ben, from running Nobility. You're like, ooh, it's a low edge team, except that I've got 4 bodyguards, 2 throwers, and 2 blitzers. So it's a low edge team that has 8 3+ agility players. Oh, I've only got 2 of my bodyguards. Okay, fine. So 6 of your 11 players are as good as everybody else. Like, on Nurgle, you got Hack Phlegm and 3-4 Pestigors. Like, look at Undead Necro, right? Low edge, but once you got 2 ghouls and a werewolf, or what more do you need? Like, Undead, you got 2 whites, 2 ghouls. You only need
players who need to worry about that.
1 player to pick up the ball. When it comes to Nurgle, you just got cheap linemen, you can get all your positionals in, and you'll have a load of cash left over for star players. So look out for Nurgle to potentially drop the Rot Spawn and be taking the Verminator instead, because I know which one I'd rather have. Rot Spawn's great, but actually, if you've already got 4 strength 4 resilient players, having 8 turns of a movement 5 mighty blow ball and chain, on top of the fact that you can also run Hack Phlegm in a tournament environment because you've got cheap linemen, this Nurgle are going to get a boost there, I think.
Oh, I love to see it.
It's nice.
You love me.
It is nice. And I think
we're so down on Nurgle at the beginning, so it's really good to see that it's like, actually there's ways out for them. Like, it'll be nice. That's why I'm keen to see Hack Phlegm, because I kind of like don't want it just to be so reliant on just Hack Phlegm, and that's kind of the sort of theme with all of this data is. It seems like the stars have a big influence on this,
and the teams that can run those stars benefit, and that's hands down. Look at Halfling and Ogres; they're both sitting about 50% win rate. Halflings at 49, Ogres at 50. It's because they can take Griff, and Chorf sitting up there at the top. Like, they have got a really good skill set for this environment, but they can take Hack Phlegm, and a Chaos Dwarf team with Hack Phlegm is potent as you like. And that is really game changing, and we're looking at this entirely from a tournament and a constructed point of view. This is not for League, and that's why, Ben, I think you and I were so down on Nurgle at the beginning, is because ultimately we're League players. Blood Bowl is a League game. Like, can you imagine playing constructed games of Dungeons and Dragons and then being like, "Ooh, why are you running that halfling bard, man? When you can just run this barbarian with all these traits." Like, well, yeah, but if you're playing D&D proper, getting that barbarian to have those traits is just garbage. Like, in the meantime, I can be getting free beer playing my little, bongo drums.
Hey, D&D meta's no joke. There's some cutthroat players out there.
Exactly. And actually, Blood Bowl ain't that far off. Any surprises on here for you, Ben, other than Nurgle outperforming Chaos Chosen?
A halfling that outperforming human is quite interesting. A human are really, like, I am baffled by that. I really thought humans were doing better. Although, saying that, I feel like even in the tournaments we've done, which, haven't seen too many games, the humans I have seen have done pretty averagely. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why that is.
So there's a little bit of a correlation here, I think, between human and Skaven. So they're both tier 1 teams. They both got better from a roster point of view, and they both got a little bit cheaper, I think, in a way, or just got better. But they are the teams that want to play themselves as a team. OWA is right up there as well. Like, these are teams that, and Imperial Nobility, they're teams that are a Skaven team. Whereas some of the other teams have got that ability to flex into a star. If you run a Skaven team, you're going to struggle to fit a star in there. And if you do, you don't add anything. But what we're seeing from the star player element here are the teams that are getting the biggest boost. So Ogre have got a massive boost because now they can afford the heck out of Griff, and Griff got better. Halfling can afford Griff and Morg, or whatever nonsense is going on. Underworld can afford their team plus Hackflem. And all these teams are getting something that they're missing. With Skaven and Human, you're not adding anything much. Like, you can take Hackflem, sweet, now I've got 5 movement 9 players. Like, that doesn't really add anything to me. That's why I think the Verminator is going to be beneficial on a Skaven team, because actually they do need some bash. They've got a Rat, that's wicked, but they do need a little bit more bash. And the humans, like, you can take Griff, and Griff does do some cool stuff, but he's taking you from a team that's an 8 out of 10 to an 8.4 out of 10. Same with Skaven. Skaven in a league, unstoppable, right? Because you're playing one team against another team. Here, you're playing a build against another build. And when those teams can get those star players in, actually, you just, like Nurgle is a cracking example. You've got something that just makes it a Hackflem team, because you can still pick up the ball at any point and run for 11 squares on a couple of 2+. Like, Nurgle do not get that. Skaven do. So what we're seeing here is that actually Skaven are being balanced out by every other team being able to take a star player that allows them to play like Skaven without getting anything in return. And humans are the same. And Black Orcs essentially are the same. Like, because Black Orcs, their win percentage is low. Now, there's definitely an element of the fact that actually it's a proper popular team because it's looking wicked, it's fun to play, and their win rate is 44% out of 651 games. I think a huge element of that's going to be actually it's a fun team, it's a popular team. I want it. Like, everyone wants to run them.
Yeah.
And there's definitely that element with humans as well, Ben. Like, humans, lizards, orcs, they're popular. Like, we see that. Skaven as well is a popular team. And the more games you got, the harder it is to get a solid win rate, unless apparently you're dwarves or underworld, which is phenomenal. And I just
I hadn't considered it from that angle. It kind of like brings me on to another point, which is definitely kind of rehashing an older topic, I guess. But should tournaments limit stars?
This is the question that is kicking out right now: is what do we do about stars? What do we do to bring this in, and how do we balance out the meta? Because when Games Workshop releases a Chorf team, or if a Chorf team lands, that's the best place to be in any tournament right now. Chorf with Hackflem, you've got your tackle to counter their Hackflem, you've got the bash to tackle their bash, and you've got some edge to do whatever you want, and you've got Hackflem to run around and do things. Like, Chaos Dwarves like the ultimate team right now. Underworld are, but they're faster at it, but they are more vulnerable. But they're just being able to combo out because people aren't prepared. But when it comes to Star, it is that element of actually what do we need to do? Like, do you ban Star players at tournaments? If you do, tier 3 teams, that it's no fun. Like, I ran Snotlings with Hackflem, one, because the viewers voted for me to run that, but two, because actually that's pretty cool. Like, I'm all in on Hackflem while my Snotling team does its Snotling thing. That's an angle. And actually, it is the game, right? Actually, if you want to take a Hackflem build with Underworld, and that's your deal, that's your story for your team, it should be okay. That win percentage is a problem, I think.
Yeah.
Because
that is a problematic stat.
yeah, that is goblins as well. Like, what do you think should be the angle on Star players, man?
I mean, we've definitely said this on at least 2 episodes, I think, or I've said this for sure. I love the idea of the rotation, a star rotation, or a tournament specific star package where, you know, they just say like, these are the stars for this tournament.
Yeah.
I think it can get. I mean, we've done what, been to 3 tournaments since 2020.
The new edition? Yeah, 3, 4?
Yeah, something like that.
Not as many as we'd like, but not bad anyway.
And I'm already a little bit bored of Hackflem and Griff and Morg. And like, I don't know how long this can kind of stay up, because it is quite tiresome to sort of see the same. And it kind of goes against what we were saying earlier, where, you know, some miniatures games are the same every time, and Blood Bowl isn't like that. Especially in League play. But to have that in tournament setting where kind of like you rock up and you're just like, right, what Hackflem roster have you brought today? Oh, I've brought my Griff, I've got the Griff one.
I've got Chorfs with Hackflem and Morg. Oh wow, you've gone all in. Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing I did think, and we were talking about this in some of the comments of the videos, is a very simple thing that TOs can do, which is skills or stars. Like, if you take a star player, you lose your skill package. So you can take an Underworld team with 6 skills, but if you take a star player, you can't have any skills. Like, okay. So basically what you're saying is you can build your franchise, and we'll reward you for playing a nobility team as a nobility team, or you can run nobility with Griff, and actually that's what you're doing. And I think that would be a way I would go. 1, because it doesn't actually mess up with the NAF angle. And 2, it's going to encourage players to build their own team. But actually, if they want to run an Underworld team with Hackflem because that's what they want to do for fun, actually, you can still do that. But you're penalising it a little bit. But from a rotation point of view, Ben, I think I'd love to see that. But, you know, General's Handbook, AOS, every year it drops. It changes points costs. Like, flipping heck, let's just have the 2022 season handbook annual drop, £15. It's only 7 pages because it's Games Workshop, but one of those 7 pages says that actually Hackflem's now 230k. 250k, like, enjoy. And we balance it out. And I think that would be fine, like, to do. From a Games Workshop point of view, I just don't think that's what they're interested in doing, because Blood Bowl is a league game. Like, Hackflem, not a problem in league. If you are 200 and something k down where you can afford Hackflem, you run him, maybe he'll help you win, maybe he'll help you keep up, but he's going to cost you SPP. So you can take a win, but your team's not growing, and that's a superb balance point. And I think stars in league games are brilliant, because last edition inducements were worthless. Like, they were worthless. Unless you were a Skaven team with a wizard, nothing was going to help you win. Like, I've got 300k, but the best thing I can do is take a Halfling Master Chef and just hope it messes up my opponent's plan. Right? That was the goal. It was that, or you take an extra Bombardier, or you take old school Kreek just to try and hurt your opponent as much as possible. Like, that was what you could do in the last edition. Now it's all right. I am going to take Hackflem for a bargain, 180k in a league game, because 180k in a league game is a load of stuff. Like, that's a load of stuff. And that's kind of why I think that a skills or stars build, well, I don't know, man. I think that it gives you a choice. Like, do you want to take a renegade team with 8 skills, or do you want to take a renegade team with Hackflem? What's your thing? Because you're playing a league game now. You're either an experienced league team or you're a vanilla league team with a star to balance it out. That's going to get you a very Blood Bowl experience. That's going to feel like one-off league play.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't seem sure, listeners.
I just think something like while it's great in league, it is still going to be a problem in tournaments, and I think something needs to change. I mean, let me put this idea to you. How about like a build a star system where you use the system they put in the zone for the mercs? Yeah, where instead of these set stars, you can build stars based on certain criteria.
That would be probably worse.
Yeah, maybe actually. Yeah,
some of those stars. What was it? What was it? The best one we built was like a 30k or like a 30k leader caddy. Like it just made me feel like the old Warhammer Fantasy days, where I was like, I'm going to take this wizard. It's going to be cheap. I'm going to give him 2 dispel scrolls, and that's all he's going to do. Like it's like, oh, I could buy a reroll, or I could buy a halfling with a reroll. Like he just sits on the let's do that. Like,
okay, maybe not.
It would be fun.
Maybe let's post it. Like, if people have suggestions, post it, because I do genuinely want to see this.
Yeah.
And from like, it's something we could try, Ben, at an event. Just like, we love wacky rules. Let's mix it up a little bit. Instead of the star system, let's do like a rotation, or a build, like here's like a package, make a star player out of it, go nuts. Like I think something can be done, and I think it'll be really interesting to explore. So if people do have suggestions, do post. And
we're seeing a lot of chat about it as well, because Ben, we get to tournaments as often as we can. But there are players out there whose main hobby is going to tournaments, and dude, it's got to be really boring. Like, and I think that's potentially why we're seeing more of a shift to those tackle heavy teams. The other thing I thought about is just giving every team 2 free tackle teams, but then all you do is encourage bash, and I actually like the dash element of it. I like running my dice hot and cold and seeing where I go, and actually that was part of how I had a great time with Snotlings until I came up against Chaos Dwarf team with Hakflem. It's like, you've got everything I don't have, and it's better. Like, oh, this is a tough game. I did three die up POW Hakflem though, which was sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, it was my moment of joy in that one. Wayne still destroyed me 2-0, but it was good.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
But I don't know if it's problems with these specific stars, because actually Griff and Hakflem do absolutely make a difference to the team, because they add stuff that is just straight up better. And I don't know if it's their costing. But even at 250, I think Hakflem would be still an auto include when it came to a constructed team build. And
I mean, if you're into the game, it doesn't really matter how much it costs again.
That's it, man. That is really it. Right. Anyway, I'll put the link to this in the show notes. If you haven't already seen it from Monthly Meta, go and have a look at the data, and do let us know, like Ben says, what you think. How do we fix this underworld crisis? On the plus side, like, you can still go to a tournament and you probably won't play against Underworld. And if you do, it's most of the time a really good match. Like, there's distinct vulnerabilities there. You take out Hakflem, like, all right, they've still got a gutter runner, but then you're just playing against a weaker Skaven team. So actually some stars there that are really useful is Rumbelow, because he's a strength 3 horns tackler. Like, makes a great safety to counterplay against Hakflem. But hey, if it just encourages more scores, that might be why Goblins are suffering though, Ben. It's because historically, scoring quickly with or against a Goblin team is bad, because they're their bribe and their secret weapon management. And if we're seeing more teams with movement 7, movement 8, movement 9 high edge players scoring more touchdowns, Goblins are going to lose out on that one because of that secret weapon element. There we go. We've solved Goblins. Right, BT, anything else to add?
I think that's everything.
Right then, guys, we will wrap up the episode now. Thank you very much for joining us and talking about some Blood Bowl nonsense. Let us know your thoughts on all the stuff we talked about. And for now, we are going to disappear. I'm going to go have a wedding. I'm going to get Ben drunk at it, which will be good fun. And yeah, we will see you again soon. Thanks very much, guys. Take care of yourselves. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content. We get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead Podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.